Good afternoon, Chief Judge, voting judges, functionaries, contestants, and our audience members. It is my absolute pleasure to serve as the District 91 International Speech Contest Chair and lead the proceedings for today's contest. The purpose of today's contest is to declare a winner of the District 91 International Speech Contest and provide a recording of the winner for the regional semi-finals. Anonymous voting judges will use the judges' ballot form for criteria to support the completion of their ballots, which will be presented to the Chief Judge and ballot counters to confirm the results of this contest. The contestants in this contest are to have prepared an original speech on a topic of their choosing that is between 5 and 7 minutes. A contestant will be disqualified if the speech lasts for less than 4 minutes and 30 seconds or more than 7 minutes and 30 seconds. A green signal will be displayed at 5 minutes and remain displayed for 1 minute. A yellow signal will be displayed at 6 minutes and remain displayed for 1 minute. A red signal will be displayed at 7 minutes and will remain on until the conclusion of the speech. There will be no indication of the contestant that they have gone over time. Timing will begin with the contestant's first definite verbal or non-verbal communication with the audience. For the proceedings of the contest, each speaker will be moved to the panelist stage of this platform, and I will ensure that the speaker can be seen, heard, and can see the contest timekeepers. I will then formally introduce the contestant, their speech title, contestant. The speaker should begin speaking within a short time after being introduced, and they should not cause unnecessary delay to the contest proceedings. There will be a minute's silence for the judges to complete their voting after each speaker. After the final speech, there will be silence until all the judges have been moved to the judges' meeting to finalise their marks and submit their ballots. Before adjourning the contest today, the Chief Judge will announce if there are any disqualifications, but not name the contestants involved. Protests can only be made by a contestant or a voting judge. Protests are limited to eligibility, originality, and reference to another contestant's speech, and must be lodged only by voting judges or contestants to the Chief Judge or the contest chair prior to this contest being adjourned. I can confirm that all contestants have been briefed or waived their right to a briefing. I ask our Chief Judge to confirm that all judges and functionaries have been briefed. Chris, could you please confirm this?
I can confirm that all judges and functionaries have been briefed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. For the benefit of our judges and functionaries, spotlighted on the screen next to me should be an order of our contestants, and I will run through those now. These were drawn during the contestants' briefing. Contestant number 1, Garlok Chung. Contestant number 1, Garlok Chung. Contestant number 2, Alero Aranhingo. Contestant number 2, Alero Aranhingo. Contestant number 3, Dan McGill. Contestant number 3, Dan McGill. Contestant number 4, Emily Lambert. Contestant number 4, Emily Lambert. Contestant number 5, Gayatri Deshmukh. Contestant number 5, Gayatri Deshmukh. Contestant number 6, Chris Bowden. Contestant number 6, Chris Bowden. Contestant number 7, Christina Lark. Contestant number 7, Christina Lark. And contestant number 8, Ben Sloyan. Contestant number 8, Ben Sloyan. I will now ask our Zoom master to please bring the first contestant onto the stage.
The contestant should be in the room.
Contestant number 1, can you hear me and can you see me?
Yes, I confirm that I can see and hear you.
Thank you, contestant number 1. I can hear you and see you. Can you please confirm that you can see both the timekeepers and myself?
Yes, I can.
Thank you very much. Contestant number 1. Garlok Chung, The Two Goodbyes. The Two Goodbyes, Garlok Chung.
How do you deal with disappointment? It was summertime. I was 11 years old, sitting in a pub garden with my father, until he told me, "It's not you, it's me." You see, my parents had gotten married when they were 19. I was born 2 months later, so my father had been a child in his own family to then suddenly having his own the next day. After the recent divorce, he realized he had a sudden sense of freedom, the opportunity to do things that he missed out in his 20s, a chance to find himself. And I had this fantasy in my mind that we'd have these adventures together until he told me that I wouldn't be coming along. He said his goodbye, and it would be years before I would see him again. I saw a notification on Messenger. It was from my cousin based out in Hong Kong, and she needed to pass the message to me. My father, who'd been traveling for years, was making a short trip to London. Did I want to meet up? I had this fantasy in my mind. I'd show him my university degree to the guy who didn't even finish high school, the home that I bought for the guy who lives out of a suitcase. And when I last saw him, he was going bald and wearing a toupee, whilst me, I've still got all of my hair. Yes, I was being very petty. I was resentful, but I'd taken the shame that he had left, the shame that he could be right. And I wanted to show he was the loser, not me. It was 4 o'clock, the day of the departure. I was in Starbucks in Paddington, waiting to see him. I grabbed a chair in the middle of the cafe. It was 4 o'clock, then it was 5 o'clock, and nobody had showed up. Then it got to 6 o'clock, and I was thinking to myself, one of 3 things could have happened. He either was in the wrong coffee shop, he had become delayed, or perhaps this was some sort of massive prank being played on me. I mean, phones are amazing, unless the person you want to speak to doesn't have one. I was wondering what to do next, and I saw in my messages that he was due to catch the Cathay Pacific flight at 9 p.m. I had this fantasy in my mind, you know, the Hollywood scene where you just catch someone at the airport. So I thought, this is my moment. I ran across the station, took the airport express over to Terminal 3. I weaved through the crowds to get into the check-in desks. And that's when I saw him. A person that looks like me, but older, with a really bad hairpiece. I waved, and he waved back and smiled at me. And as I went in to do my move and to talk to him, he put his arms around another woman and some kids. And it occurred to me, in all of these years, I wasn't entirely sure what he looked like, and he might not even recognize me. It was now 7 o'clock, and I didn't know what to do next. So I stood there, hoping that someone would notice me. At 8 o'clock, I was trying to not make eye contact with airport security. And then at 9 o'clock, I was looking at the departure boards. The flight had gone. Had I missed my opportunity? I'd never felt more alone in my life. Can you remember the last time you felt deep disappointment? Was there a part of you that said, just give me another chance? I can do it differently. I can say it differently. If only I could be a bit different. But the thing is, it's a slippery slope. Because you then start telling your 11-year-old self, if only you were a better child, your dad could have stayed around. And I didn't want to be a person who thought of myself that way. I have these photos. They're of my friends and family, where we celebrate the key moments in our life. And I treasure them because they've always been there for me. I mean, the photos, they only really tell half the story because they were also there for me in the bad times and in the sad times. It was only by looking at the fear behind my disappointment that I realized I had this fantasy in my mind, and that's that I didn't deserve to be loved. I realized that I'd been pushing some people away in my life, that I was a little bit minimizing in terms of my relationships with them. And it's only through confronting my fear that I realized how much they meant to me, how much I appreciated them, not only for them being there for me, but I could also be there for them. Now, of course, I still suffer disappointments in my life, far too much in my opinion, but sometimes disappointments are an opportunity to confront, challenge, and change what lies behind them. Fellow Toastmasters and most welcome guests, how could you deal with your disappointments? The first goodbye is what you think you've lost, but the second goodbye is letting go of the fear behind your disappointments and making the most of what you have. Contest chair.
Thank you very much, contestant 1. Please may I ask timekeeper 1 for 1 minute on the clock for the judges. Thank you, timekeeper. Contestant number 2, can you hear me and can you see me?
I can hear you and I can see you.
Thank you. I can also hear and see you. Can I please confirm that you've hidden the non-video participants?
Yes, I have.
Okay, and you can see both the timekeepers, myself and yourself on screen.
I can do, yes.
Contestant number 2, Alero Aranjingo, speak up. Speak up, Alero Aranjingo.
Speak up, speak up, speak up. The day you fail to speak up for the things that matter to you is the day your freedom truly ends. Contest chair, fellow Toastmasters, welcome guests. Have you ever had a burning desire to contribute to an ongoing conversation? You start to speak, and all of a sudden you're rudely interrupted by someone who starts speaking over you, thereby drowning your voice. Have you had that experience? Friends, I'd like to highlight 3 important reasons for the need to speak up. The first reason why we need to speak up is because it builds confidence. It builds confidence and self-belief that we have something vital and important to contribute to the world. Not everyone has an outgoing or talkative disposition, but everyone has the right to let their voice be heard without fear and intimidation. The more we fight against our voice being stifled, is the more confident we become in speaking up. The second reason why we need to speak up is because it promotes awareness. We sometimes have the solution to the problems that the world faces. Our ideas are like gold mines that can help alleviate the suffering of the world. But come to think of it, what is the purpose of having an idea if it's not vocalized? It could be equivalent to Thomas Edison being silent about his idea of creating the light bulb. And the third and final reason why we need to speak up is because it inspires people. Some people have a hard time expressing themselves. Life has battered and bullied them to the point where they have lost their self-esteem and have lost their voice in the process. We at Toastmasters stand as a source of inspiration to these people. Our testimonies of how we overcame the fear of speaking up serves as a source of inspiration and courage to them that if we can stand up and speak up, so too can they. Growing up, I was referred to as a quiet child amongst my siblings. I didn't have much to say to people, and in instances where I didn't have friends to play with, I was okay playing on my own. This quiet disposition traveled with me from childhood to adulthood. The years rolled by and I found myself in a career. Alas, this silent traveler was still my companion. But this time, this silent traveler was adversely affecting my career. You see, I had trepidations about speaking up in public amongst my colleagues. I felt that I had on one too many occasions embarrassed myself. I can recall being called up to give presentations. Do you have a recollection of giving a daunting presentation? On the day of the presentation, I walked to the front of the meeting room, ready to deliver. Somehow, all my hard work translated into stuttering, a dry mouth, shaky hands. This seemed like a recurring nightmare. So I resolved to not say much to my colleagues, as I did not want to watch a repeat episode of the stuttering show. But for how long was I going to allow the fear of public speaking hold me bound? I needed help. So I Googled how to overcome the fear of public speaking. And a rather weird suggestion came up. Toastmasters? What in the world is Toastmasters? What does toast have to do with public speaking? It must be a scam. But my curiosity got the better of me. So I paid a visit to the back in Toastmasters Club and I joined. Ladies and gentlemen, 2 years later, I am proud to announce to you that my stuttering attacks are now a thing of the past. I have even become a counselor, confidently raising awareness and inspiring people on issues such as social justice, women empowerment, and speaking against violence to women. Mary Celeste spoke up against infanticide. Mahatma Gandhi spoke up for social justice. Nelson Mandela spoke up against apartheid. What do you need to speak up for. It's high time we faced our fears and stopped being voiceless. Remember, life is too short to leave important words unspoken. Speak up. Contest chair.
Thank you, timekeeper. Please can we have 1 minute on the clock for the judges?
Contest chair, you're on mute.
Contestant number 3, can you hear me and can you see me?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. I can hear you and I can see you. Can I confirm that you've hidden the non-video participants?
Yes, done.
Okay, and you can see the timekeepers on the screen?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. Contestant number 3, Dan McGill, the definition of insanity. The definition of insanity, Dan McGill.
Are you insane? Are you crazy? Doolally? Are you one roll short of a full agenda? Contest chair, fellow screwballs. They say the definition of insanity is to keep doing the same thing over and over, hoping for something to change. But do you know who originally said that? You're probably thinking Einstein. But no, he never said it. What about the founder of Toastmasters, Mr. Ralph C. Smedley? He had so many great quotes, didn't he? But no, it's not him either. Sorry, Ralph. Nobody really knows who said it originally. But it makes sense, doesn't it? Why keep doing something that simply isn't working for you? When I was 11, that's me, I had a huge crush on the girl who lived next door. Her name was Emma. She was 12. That's her. An older woman. Every morning I'd leave my house at precisely the same time as Emma, and we'd walk to school together. When I say together, I was always about 20 steps behind, and she didn't know I existed. But I did the same thing every day for 3 years, because I had a theory that one day Emma would notice me and she'd call out, "Hey, aren't you the boy from next door? Let's go for an ice cream." Emma never looked back. Then one day she moved house. Was I insane for doing the same thing every day, hoping for something to change? Yes, of course I was. Yes. But last year, I'm walking my daughter to school one day when I feel my phone vibrate in my pocket. Oh, a friend request from Emma. "Hey, aren't you the boy from next door? Always loved playing with dolls. Remember me? You used to follow me to school every day. Are you still stalking people?" We chatted for a while. Emma told me she's a full-time carer for her 20-year-old son, Matthew, who was born with severe disabilities. She explained that she spent the first few years of Matthew's life praying for something big to change. It never did. But Emma doesn't look back. For 20 years, she's relentlessly done the same things for Matthew, and she still hopes that one day something will change. What do you think? Is Emma insane? Can I tell you something that Einstein definitely did say? He said, human beings never fail. Not until the moment we give up. But we give up all the time, don't we? We give up on ideas, careers, relationships, people, and on we go to the next thing. But sometimes persistence and perseverance pays off. Because guess what? Last month, I met up with Emma. We brought our children. We went for ice cream. Seeing Emma with Matthew, understanding a little bit more about the lifelong devotion she has for her son, I realized that doing the same thing over and over, hoping for something to change, it's not the definition of insanity. It's the definition of humanity. It's the definition of beauty, spirit, and perseverance. Why keep doing something that simply isn't working for you? Well, you might think that Emma has no choice. But according to the United Nations, there are currently 60 million children out there who've been abandoned by their families. 60 million children who wish there were 60 million more Emmas. Right now, wars are raging, poverty is soaring. The NHS reports that mental health disorders in our children have risen by 50%. There's no prospect of anything changing for the better anytime soon. So we need more Emmas. We need people who don't care if their persistence in the face of hopelessness makes them seem insane. Can you join the army of Emmas? Can you make a commitment and keep going? Even if it starts to feel crazy. Even when you know there's no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Why keep doing something that simply isn't working for you? Emma will tell you why. And I think Einstein would too. Because Albert Einstein, he once had a theory that light could be bent by gravity. People told him he was insane, crazy, doolally, one atom short of anything that mattered. But he kept on relentlessly trying, hoping that one day something would change. And eventually, everything did. So if this crazy old screwball of a genius was here today, I don't think he'd be advising us to give up, do you? I think he'd implore us to dedicate ourselves to something, to commit to something, and not to stop until we've achieved something. Anything else, surely, would be the definition of insanity. Contest chair.
Thank you very much. Timekeeper, please can I have 1 minute on the clock for the judges?
Just before you start, timekeeper 1, I'm seeing a bit of flicker in the blank white screen or red screen. I don't know whether you can adjust whatever's covering the camera to give you that consistency. If you just spend a couple of seconds doing that before we kick off again, because it's slightly distracting. Thank you.
I can see the timekeeper 1 clearly now. Contestant number 4, can you hear me and can you see me?
Yes, I can see you and hear you.
I can hear you and see you. Have you hidden the non-video participants?
Yes, I have.
Okay, and you can see both timekeepers, myself and yourself on the screen.
Yes.
Contestant number 4, Emily Lambert. Who are you talking to? Who are you talking to, Emily Lambert?
Madam Contest Chair, fellow Toastmasters and very welcome guests. I hope this isn't oversharing, but I regularly go to bed with several different people at once. I should clarify, all of those people are inside my head. They're all me, but they've got different voices somehow, different motivations. Have you ever experienced really wanting to tell your boss exactly what you think of him and really hoping you don't tell your boss exactly what you think of him? It's possible for us to want opposite things simultaneously, almost as if there's more than one mind. There's a new approach to therapy called internal family systems, which suggests that by understanding these different parts of ourselves, we can become happier, we could achieve more, or simply stop making the same mistakes. But this isn't a new idea, right? Plato said, thinking is the soul talking to itself, which begs the question, who are you talking to? I think that's a really important question. And to illustrate, I'm inviting you to come to bed with me. Picture the scene. I've just pulled up the covers and the first part to emerge is my manager part. She's the one who gets things done and she's ticking off the to-do list at the end of the day. Order Sarah's birthday present? Tick. Brush teeth? Tick. Set alarm clock for early morning run? Tick. Side note, she knows that I'm going to snooze that alarm and have very little intention of going on the run, but she's some kind of optimistic masochist. The next part to emerge is a slightly meaner me. And meaner me is very skeptical about all of the smugness that's happening right now. So she is double checking the to-do list. Bingo. You forgot to ring Grandma. She is 82 and lives alone. You're a terrible person. Manager me has dropped the ball. That's okay, I can ring Grandma straight after my run tomorrow morning. And maybe Meaner me could have pointed this out a little bit sooner. Meaner me feels that events planning isn't really her domain. She's more here in a critique capacity. The negativity of Meaner me is nothing compared to Wiener me. Oh, I don't want to go for a run tomorrow. These pajamas are itchy. Oh, I think I need a wee. She doesn't have anything to contribute, she just likes to complain. At the more positive end of the spectrum is make-believe me, who is busy building castles in the sky. After that run tomorrow, I'm going to start writing a thought-provoking novel. It's going to be about, oh, never mind that. What am I going to say at the Man Booker Prize Award ceremony? Make-believe me has a fellow fantasist friend in paranoid me. Why didn't Sarah message me back earlier? She knew I was joking about the birthday party, right? Maybe she was offended. Maybe she's been hit by a car. By this time, pleasure-seeking me is suggesting that we spice up this early night by reaching for my favourite electronic device in the bedroom, my phone. Let's just see if there's any bargains on eBay before we go to bed. Now, pleasure-seeking me isn't always a harbinger of happiness. For starters, if she had her way, my body shape would be a perfect circle. She has regular disputes with my Mina part. Did you just eat an entire carton of Haagen-Dazs? Huh? Oh. Firstly, that's disgusting. Secondly, look at what you did to Ween and me. Oh, I feel sick. Oh, and I'm never going to fit into the dress for the party on Saturday. This is a critical juncture. Manager me needs to spring into action, or Wiener me is going to keep all of us up all night long. That's okay. Tomorrow I'll look online and I will order some kind of tent garment to wear to the party on Saturday. But unfortunately, paranoid me has picked up the ball and is running with it. Oh my goodness, I am going to look ridiculous in front of all of Sarah's teeny tiny yoga friends. Make-believe me would love to help, but she is desperately clutching at straws. Maybe I don't need friends. Maybe I could move to France and live off the land. And on and on and on. It is exhausting. And these aren't even all of the voices. I don't know who it is, but somebody up there keeps singing half-remembered songs from my youth. I don't know who that lady is, but I will give her this much. She is the first one awake in the morning, and she is the last one to fall asleep at night. But the point is that all of these different parts think that they are helping me somehow. Make-believe me is reminding me what's possible. Paranoid me is just looking for danger. Mina me is always asking me if I could do better. And Wiener me is pointing out when things are becoming uncomfortable. But who are you talking to? Maybe your manager part is so strict that you never just relax and have fun with your kids. Maybe your Mina part is so loud that it persuaded you not to go for a promotion that you really deserved. Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. So figure out who you are talking to so that you can listen to the parts that encourage you to be a better person, so that you can show compassion to the parts that are hurting, and so that you never forget to play with your fun parts. Thank you, contest chair.
Thank you very much. Please may I have 1 minute on the clock for the judges. Contestant number 5, can you hear me and can you see me?
Yes, I can see you and I can hear you.
I can hear you and I can see you. Can I confirm that you've hidden the non-video participants?
Yes, I have.
And you can see both our timekeepers and myself and yourself on the screen?
Yes, I can. There is just a little disturbance in the timekeeper 1.
Okay.
Yeah,
Timekeeper 1.
Do you want? Can you spend a couple of minutes? Let's pause the contest and timekeeper 1. Do you want to spend a couple of minutes trying to fix the posted or whatever is coming off, and then we'll see if we can solve that problem. So let's pause for a couple of minutes. Apologies.
Thank you, Chief Judge.
Okay, so backup timekeeper. So what we're going to do is we're going to move to the backup timekeeper, and should there be a problem with the backup timekeeper, the other timekeeper will come back, will flash his screen back on. So backup timekeeper, can you just flick to red and then back to white to indicate you're ready to proceed? Thank you. Okay, contest chair, you may take a deep breath. I shall take a deep breath and you may go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief Judge. Zoo Master 1, could you please rename Timekeeper 2 to Timekeeper 1, just for clarity for the contestants? Thank you very much. And I ask again, if contestant number 5, please could you turn your camera back on and can confirm you can hear me and see me?
Yes, I can see you and I can hear you.
I can see you and I can hear you. And can you see Timekeeper 1?
I can, yes.
Thank you very much. Contestant number 5, Gayatri Deshmukh. What are you holding on to? What are you holding on to, Gayatri Deshmukh?
I wouldn't let go. I just wouldn't let go. I held on with all my might. Contest chair, fellow Toastmasters and guests. 4 years old, sitting on a bench eating nuts. My parents standing close by. Suddenly, a massive monkey sits right next to me. The monkey looks at me. I look at the monkey. The next thing I know, he tries to grab the nuts. My parents shout, "Let him go, we'll buy you more." But I wouldn't let go. I just wouldn't let go. I held on until the monkey's nails dig into my palm. The pain is unbearable. Finally, I let go. The monkey and I fall down on rocks. The nuts scattered on the ground. Years passed by. I grew older, not any wiser. I was no more holding on to nuts. I was now holding on to resentments, grudges, disappointments. I was bullied in high school, I wouldn't let go. I was betrayed in relationships, I wouldn't let go. I was humiliated by my boss, I wouldn't let go. Every bad experience I had, I just wouldn't let go. Until the pain was unbearable and finally I fell. I hit rock bottom. Then I left everything. I left my job, I left my family, I left everything that was dear to me. I put on my white robes, took a staff in my hand, and left everything behind. In my head, I was a monk on a spiritual journey, walking in the wilderness, barefoot, surviving only on charity. In everybody else's mind, I had a breakdown, had left my shoes at home, and was begging strangers for food. One day, I come to a wide river. I don't know how to swim, but I have to cross it anyway. Doesn't look very deep. Halfway across, I realized the river is deeper than I thought. The current is stronger than I thought. Suddenly, I'm being swept away. My entire life flashed before my eyes. Every disappointment, every resentment, every grudge, every betrayal, every humiliation I had held on to flashed before my eyes. And the regret of not letting them go gripped me. This was it. This was the end. And it was going to end with me in pain and suffering because I couldn't let go. Then, by some divine intervention, a log, I grabbed it. I wouldn't let go. I just wouldn't let go. I held on with all my might. I don't know how long I held on to that log. By the time I reached shore, both my hands were bleeding. I thought about everything that had happened to me, everything I had experienced. And it dawned upon me that maybe it is not all bad holding on to things. I returned from that journey with a revelation. The trick in life is knowing what to hold on to. Holding on to disappointments, resentments, grudges, it sucks out energy out of us. It serves no purpose at all. But holding on to goals, dreams, our ambitions, they energize us. They strengthen us from within. They give us a purpose in life. I am no longer clinging to the humiliations at work. I'm holding on. I'm focused on that promotion. In love, I have stopped dwelling on the betrayals. And I'm holding on to my hope, my dream of finding my Prince Charming. Last week, I went hiking. I was sitting on a bench, eating nuts. Suddenly, a monkey jumped out of a tree, like snatched the nuts. I let go immediately. Holding on to things is going to cause you pain and suffering. You just have to decide if it is worth it. If you are achieving your goals, if you are fulfilling your dreams after all that pain and suffering, it is worth holding on to. But if all you are getting is more pain and suffering, you are not achieving anything, you are not reaching anywhere in life, then it's better to let go. What are you holding on to? Disappointments, grudges, resentments, or dreams, goals, ambitions? What are you holding on to? Contest chair.
Thank you very much. Timekeeper, please can we have a minute on the clock for the judges? Thank you, timekeeper. Contestant number 6, can you hear me and can you see me?
I can hear you and I can see you.
Thank you very much. Can I confirm that you've hidden the non-video participants?
I have.
And you can see timekeeper 1 and myself on the screen.
Yep, I can see timekeeper 1.
Thank you very much. Contestant number 6, Chris Bowden. Enough. Enough, Chris Bowden.
You can have it all, everything you want and more. But you have to want it. Enough. Contest chair, my friends, this message fuels our world. Get more, have more, do more, be more. What's wrong with that? Who doesn't want a bit more, right? A better phone, better clothes, better job, more money. That's where it's at. You ever stop to consider, though, if we always want a bit more, where does it end? Let me share my story. I grew up in a fairly typical working class household in Australia. 4 kids, dad's a skilled labourer, mum worked multiple part-time jobs to keep food on the table. So money was always an issue. My childhood was spent in hand-me-down clothes from my big brothers, and we ate supermarket brand food and took holidays in tents, not in hotels. But it was okay. Mum and dad would squirrel a little bit away for a few luxuries, and mum said, Chris, there's no point having money if you're not going to spend it. And I thought, oh, that's why we don't have any. And I would hear that, but I would also see at the end of the month, my parents sitting at the dining table, paying the bills, balancing the checkbook, and I saw how stressful that was. And I think when you're a child, you tend to absorb these things. And I took that in. But I was lucky, I got good grades, I went to university and I became a penniless student, scavenging drinks wherever I could and living off instant noodles and the cheapest clothes I could get. Sure, there were lots of things I wanted to have and to do. I wanted a cool car. I wanted to take the fancy holidays some of my friends took, but that's for people with money. I'll do that later when I have more. And I graduated. I got a job with a salary. Yes, now I can buy things. Oh, wow. Things are really expensive. Have you noticed that things are really expensive? That's a cool jacket. I will get the cheap one. I'll get that one later when I've got a bit more. And so it went. Engineering was good to me. My salary went up and my lifestyle kind of didn't, because it was always, oh, that's nice. I'll get the cheap one. I'll get that later when I've got a bit more. And that was clothes and cars and holidays and gifts for my girlfriend. I moved to the UK. I got a really good job and nothing changed. It was always cheap cheap, cheap, and cheap. Yeah. It's like there was just something. I recently read an obituary, and it was written 2 decades ago by the author Kurt Vonnegut about his friend Joseph Heller. Joseph Heller wrote Catch-22, one of the great novels of the 20th century, and he tells a story of them at a party thrown by a gazillionaire hedge fund manager. And Kurt Vonnegut said to Joseph Heller, he said, "Joseph, how do you feel knowing that just today our host has probably made more money than you did of the whole history of Catch-22? And Joseph Heller said, "I'm not concerned. I have something he'll never have." What's that? I have enough. Boy, that resonated so deeply with me, because no matter how much I had, it never feels like enough. No matter how much more I have from where I started, it's still not enough. There's still, I need more, and then I'll be okay. Then I'll be safe. Because there's a part of me still stuck, sitting at the dining table with my parents, watching them do the bills, thinking this is never going to happen to me, which is so ridiculous, because they raise 4 children on less than I make now. Maybe you know this feeling. This feeling of I just need a little bit more. What I have is just not quite enough. I just need a little bit more, and then I'll get going. And it could be money, it could be prestige, it could be beauty, it could be fitness. It's that little bit we just, oh, I'm just not quite there yet. And I used to think this was just people like me who grew up working class and carry that with them, but I see it everywhere. I look around, I see billionaires who still act like they cannot ever have enough, and they always want more. And I remember Mum saying, "Chris, there's no point having money if you're not going to spend it." And I'm starting to think she was right. If I look a bit tired, it's because yesterday I landed back in the UK from a trip to Australia, which I took largely because my wife kept saying to me, "Chris, would you stop obsessing about the money and go and see your family?" And of course she was right, because it's been a really long couple of years when your loved ones are on the other side of the world. Here's the unpopular truth. We can't have everything we want. And that's good. That is good. Because if we can start to let go of this feeling of, I just need a bit more. I just need a little bit more, and then if we can do that, we can have something that is so much better. We can have enough. Contest chair.
Thank you very much. Timekeeper, please can we have 1 minute on the clock for the judges? Contestant number 7, can you hear me and can you see me?
Yes, I can hear you and see you.
Excellent, I can hear you and see you. Can I confirm that you've hidden the non-video participants?
Yes.
And you can see Timekeeper 1, myself and yourself on the screen.
I can.
Thank you very much. Contestant number 7, Christina Lark, Too Old for Talent. Too Old for Talent, Christina Lark.
You are too old for it. You're never gonna learn it. Your time has passed. I heard it in a happy hour at work, when I told people around me that I was learning to play piano. I heard it from the human resources guy of all people. He was nobody's favorite person in that office. And I could already prove that he was wrong. 5 years before, I had joined a musical theater school in my late 20s. For the most part, it wasn't a challenge. At first, I was physically out of shape, as I hadn't danced in many years. Just imagine the pain you feel when you skip gym for a month and then get back. But I had been taking ballet lessons since I was 4, so even if I needed physical conditioning, I could follow all those classes seamlessly. The movements were all in my body, like riding a bike, you never forget. But I was obligated to take hip-hop lessons in the course. A kind of music I never liked, a kind of dance that had nothing to do with me, with my style. Those classes were so overwhelming. Not just because I had to exist as a rational human being in a room where loud, annoying music was blasting for an hour, but also because the teacher would teach us by saying, just copy me, and then move erratically, doing a completely different thing with her body at every beat. She wouldn't even count beats, 1, 2, 3, 4. She would guide herself by the lyrics. I hated those classes. She hated me, and she flunked me for 2 years in a row. How many people in here, or your children, haven't quit some activity because a teacher or a boss or a parent said, you have no talent? And how many people here have ever questioned this statement, went after a second opinion, like we do with doctors? I did. As an ever inquisitive nerd, I could never conform to, well, if you say so, then I quit. Instead, I became more and more curious, intrigued even about the mechanics of learning, the mechanics of talent, whether there is indeed a window of knowledge that shuts after a certain age, leaving people forever hopeless at ever learning any new skill once puberty hits. Is it possible to learn how to play a musical instrument, how to dance, how to speak a foreign language and speak it well as adults? Or we should have started by the age of 6 and now it's too late. Luckily, the answers don't lie with obnoxious coworkers or bully teachers, but with neuroscience. I'm not a scientist, so this took me on quite the journey. I had to read many books and studies and scientific publications, and the results are in. Most scientists agree that the key to mastering any new skill is 1, deliberate practice. What? Now, it seems ridiculously simplistic. There must be something else. Well, of course, genius exists, but the vast majority of people who master a skill aren't geniuses. For every human being, what makes us do any movement or think any thought are the electric impulses carried by the neurons in our brain. The more we practice something, the more efficient we make the specific circuit of electric impulses. Because the more you practice, the more the body synthesizes a protein called myelin that builds up around the synapses, the neuron connections, and insulates the electrical impulse the same way you insulate a copper wire by wrapping rubber around it. The thicker the myelin layer gets, the better it insulates, and the faster and more accurate our movements and thoughts become. Myelin growth enables all manners of skills, physical and mental. The good news is everyone can produce myelin. At any age? Yes, at any age. The only difference found in research and studies is that myelin grows more swiftly during childhood, but it does grow throughout life. So as adults, we just have to practice a bit more. It must be the right kind of practice, enough repetitions on each session, and constancy of sessions, focusing on the mistakes and the areas that are still challenging to you. Not simply trying something new every time without solidifying anything, like what my hip-hop teacher was doing. And not staying in your skill level's comfort zone, doing only the stuff that you already know. The more time and energy you put into the right kind of practice, the longer you stay in the zone, the talent building zone. Yes, but at any age. Yes, at any age. The more this critical period to learn is studied, the flimsier the evidence that it exists gets. In the end, there are only two main things that hinder adults when it comes to learning a new skill when compared to children. One, adults don't have enough time. Life gets in the way, you have responsibilities, and adults do need the extra practice time. And two, children don't have a formed sense of aesthetics, also known as self-judgment. Last summer, I was at the park and saw a little girl practicing cartwheels. It was very cute, but very inaccurate. She didn't care. She didn't think she looked silly. She would be trying over and over again, obsessively. A child can be playing the tuba for hours and not notice how bad it sounds, so he doesn't care and just keeps practicing. An adult will try once and say, that's too hard. I look silly. I look awful. I sound awful. No, that's not for me. No, I never learned hip hop, but I never wanted to learn hip hop. Being passionate about something is a great indication that talent is likely to develop. How many people in here had plans to learn something if only they had the time? Then 2 years of pandemic went by and did nothing. I didn't learn hip hop, but I could lose myself in the hours I spend practicing piano. And it's an indescribable thrill when you finally do something well automatically because your fingers, your body just responds to your brain's command. So it's finally time we stop the mentality that exists in so many education institutions in the world, that talent is something that you either show right now or you just don't have it, so quit. How many students haven't quit because of bad teachers? But many students can and will improve a lot because of a good teacher who fosters the right kind of practice. As for you, find a method that works for you. Find the time. Shush the naysayers, even if the naysaying voice is in your own head, and go practice. You are scientifically never too old. Madam Contest Chair.
Thank you very much. Timekeeper, please can we have 1 minute on the clock for the judges? Thank you, Timekeeper. Contestant number 8, can you hear me and can you see me?
Yes, Madam Contest Chair, I can hear you and I can see you.
And have you got the non-video participants hidden? And can you see the timekeeper?
Yes, I have, and yes, I can.
Thank you very much. Contestant number 8, Ben Soyan, our fireside chat. A fireside chat, Ben Soyan.
Imagine you're sitting around a fire and you're sharing the moment with your closest friends and family. And you're feeling what you felt last time your loved ones shared togetherness for the sake of togetherness. Madam Contest Chair, friends and guests, that kind of togetherness is what my family shared this time last year. Now there are 8 of us, my nan, my dad, my brothers, our partners. And between us, 5 generations, ages ranging from 17 to 70. All of us sat around the same fire. Generations divided by time, but united by the crackling of the flames, the firelight dancing, and eyes filled with laughter around that fire, and the smell of the smoke that's like breathing in memories. The warmth of each other's company, more warming than the fire. Now I turn to my nan. I should mention my nan's about 5 feet tall, give or take. She puts the nan in nano, if you like, and so I had to look down a bit. Well, my little nan looked at me and said, sorry. My little nan looked at me and said in her thick Suffolk accent, "Oh, my little man." She calls me a little man. "Oh, my little man, it's so nice to have everyone in one place." Hold that thought. Step away from the fire for just a moment. That stuck with me because she could just as well have said, "It's so rare to have everyone in one place." Behind her smile, the message in her eyes was, our multiple generations just don't make time for each other like we used to. Now, my nan and her advice and her wisdom are the reason I'm still here giving this speech. It's funny, I look down every time I talk to her, and even still, I've never looked up to someone so much in all my life. And as a grandson, it breaks my heart how rare it's become to listen to our elders today. When we stop sharing with them, well, we stop learning from them. And in times gone by, our elders weren't an afterthought. They were a survival necessity. A village would ask advice from the sage, the elder of the village, someone who was every bit as essential as those who built the village itself. Well, I ask you, where's the sage in our village today? Our culture has become a village without a sage. And with the way the world's evolving, well, we're of an age when we need a sage. A few years ago, thanks to stem cell engineering, a newborn baby with a heart defect was given a chance at life. Well, that same baby died in a drone strike guided by artificial intelligence, both made possible by technology. Technology in all its forms, between the internet, military power, genetic engineering, cryptocurrency, space travel, medical advances. Technology is giving us the kind of power that my nan's parents would have associated with a god. But until we've evolved the wisdom to manage that power, well, humanity is a child playing with a loaded gun. And this is why we're of an age when we need a sage. And all we have to do is ask. If we can remember how to listen to our elders, their wisdom can help guide our choices about how we use technology so that 20 years from now, it serves us and not the other way around. Or in the words of my nan,
us older folk remember a time before this technology stuff, and we've got a different point of view about it.
Was that you, Nan? You down there somewhere? It's one kind of nanotechnology, I guess. And on that subject, in that first conversation with Nan, well, we were sitting around our first ever piece of technology. It's all right, you know where the fire exits are, hopefully. Fire gave rise to our civilization, but to make sure it didn't destroy us, well, we had to learn how to use it. Exactly like the technology of today. Technology, like the fire that set us apart from the apes, has the power to bring us together, the power to advance us, to serve us, to burn us, to destroy us. And this is the real point. Our elders remember a time before this tech. They've watched it change our lives for better and for worse. If we don't listen to their perspective on what to do with it, well, we really are playing with fire. And not the kind you can sit around. Just ask the parents of that baby. But for now, come join me around a fire that you can sit around. Back here at the beginning, sat around the fire with my family and my little Nano Nan. Oh, there she is. Speaking of Nano Nan. Hello, Nan. as we sit around this great virtual fire that we call Zoom. Us, multiple generations, with 1 or 2 village sages among us, sharing in this same moment like family round a fire. We won't know what our future looks like until we're living in it. So let's make sure we get it right. If not for us, then for your grandchildren's children, for those to whom we'll have to answer if we evolve ourselves into the ground. So in this new age, let's not forget the wisdom of old age. And as she couldn't be herself, on behalf of my little nano-nan, oh, my fellow Toastmasters, it's so nice to have everyone in one place. Madam Chairman.
Thank you very much. Timekeeper, please can we have 1 minute on the clock for the judges? Thank you, Timekeeper. Chief Judge, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Contest Chair. I would like the judges to join me in the judges' retiring room, and we can make sure we collect all of the ballots, and they can have there as long as they like in quiet while you carry on with the contestant interviews. So if the judges and the ballot counters can join me in the judges' retiring room, I will see them over on the other side very shortly.
I can confirm all of the judges have now left. And before we move on to the contestants' interviews, as I've had to hold my tongue, I would now like to please, I'm going to give a big round of applause to all of our contestants. And I know that everyone in the audience is very excited to hear from our contestants. So Zoom Master, please could we have the contestants up on the stage and contestant number 1 spotlighted up with me. Big sigh of relief. Contest speech is done, and a massive smile on contestant number 1, Garlock's face. I have had a burning question for you. What I want to know is, you said that one of your favourite quotes is just play, have fun, enjoy the game, Michael Jordan. Now, you have quite what I would deem a serious job for some. You work for KPMG, and because you work in this sort of serious environment, do you think this is why sort of that focus on playing the game, having fun is so important to you, and how do you find work-life balance?
Oh, thank you very much for that question, Amy. I think a lot of our roles these days are about creativity, and it's difficult to kind of have creativity unless you have fun. The other thing is a lot of my job's about working with various people, whether that's clients, suppliers, different stakeholders. And let's be honest, right? Who wants to be stuck in an office with a really boring person just chatting about work? You've got to have a bit of banter, friendly banter, and really just enjoy our time together.
Fantastic. Well, It sounds like you make fun even in a very serious working environment, which is of course excellent. Thank you so much. And I will now ask contestant number 2. I've got a burning question for you as well. There you are,
Welcome to
Larry.
share.
Welcome to the stage.
Thank you very much.
Now, I was quite interested to hear that you enjoy cooking, and as someone who is so inspired to serve others, what would you cook for me if you were having me over for dinner?
Oh, that's an amazing question, contest chair. Well, I will cook you a real African Sierra Leonean dish, to be precise. It's called cassava leaves, and I will serve it with white rice. It's one of the favorite dishes in Sierra Leone. So you'd enjoy our Sierra Leonean cuisine, which is yummy, quite spicy, but probably I'll tone the spice down a little bit for you, but very, very yummy. I can assure you of that.
Oh, no, I think speak up with the spice for me. Thank you so much, Larry. And contestant number 3, Dan, I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm. Hello. Yep.
Hi, Dan. You have said courage is something that inspires you the most, and I would be interested to know who is the most courageous person that has inspired you.
I think for me, it would probably be, I don't like choosing one because it's my daughter's, but there's my eldest daughter has hearing impairment. She's profoundly deaf, and she inspires me a lot. But I've got another daughter, so I don't want to choose one. It's like choosing favorites. They both inspire me with their own courageous things that they do every day, and particularly the more difficult things that they overcome, obviously. And if I hadn't seen my eldest daughter overcome the difficulties and disabilities that she has, I probably wouldn't be here speaking now, because it was that kind of drove me to come and have a go at this. I thought, well, if she can get through that and get up, and she did a performance at school in front of people, I thought, if she can do that, surely I can go and at least have a go. So yeah, my daughters.
Thank you very much, Dan. As a true Toastmaster, you've not just given me one answer, I've got 2. Okay, contestant number 4, Emily, I invite you up onto the stage.
Hi, Amy.
Hi, Emily. My question for you, Emily, is you put that one of your biggest achievements is you have 3 degrees, which is very impressive, but you also say that self-help books inspire you. And so what I'm interested to know is, with these degrees, self-help books, and your membership at Toastmasters, is learning super important to you? And can you think of a single life experience which really stands out as a pivotal moment that has taught you or changed you potentially the most?
Well, yeah, learning is really, really important to me. And I think one of the things that just kind of inspires me to do better is just mixing with the other people who are learning along the way as well. So anytime you kind of go to one of these courses, or you go to Toastmasters, or like, you know, this afternoon, we've heard these 7 amazing stories of, you know, different people on life's journey. And it's just so inspirational hearing about what other people are doing in their lives and challenges that they've overcome. So yeah, that's the best thing about learning, is it brings you into connection with other people doing the same thing.
Excellent. Thank you, Emily. I agree. I'm impressed by your 3 degrees, but I'm glad to hear it's beyond that. It's more than just the formal learning, let's call it. Our next contestant, Gayatri, I will invite you up on the stage.
Hello, Amy.
Hello. Okay, you say that good conversations inspire you the most. And that's fascinating to me, because there's so many amazing conversations that happen as a member of Toastmasters with our fellow members. But what is a recent conversation that's really inspired you to maybe make a change in your life?
I don't know if I'm allowed to refer to one of the fellow contestants. Am I allowed to do that?
Well, it's not your speech. Why don't you just refer to a fellow member?
Okay, so there is someone in this very room, and I think the conversations with him have proven to be really life changer for me as well, game changer for me. I mean, I come from a journey wherein I was living on charity really for about 7 months, and living in wilderness, talking to people in the tribal areas of the world who don't speak common tongue. And after all of that, there was still one missing element in my life, and that was like bringing about that balance when you enter the real life, to not be detached completely, but not be entangled either. And I think that is something I get to learn from him a lot. So conversations with him have actually helped me become a better person.
Fantastic. So yeah, those conversations with Toastmasters really change all of our lives, don't they? Thank you so much, Gayatri, for sharing that with us. And I would like to invite our next contestant, which was Chris, up onto the stage with me.
Hello.
Fellow Australian.
Indeed.
Okay, Chris, you put a really interesting quote, and it was, maturity is the capacity to endure uncertainty. Now, as an engineer, I imagine that in order to really progress in your career, problem solving and complex problem solving is absolutely key. So an engineer might have great engineering skills, but how do they apply that beyond just engineering, I think is really important. So for you, do you think that experience is enough for maturity? And if not, what else do people need to sort of mature beyond experience?
Let me start unpacking that question. There's a lot going on there, Amy. Yes. Okay. Yeah, maturity is an interesting one, because I've spent much of my life feeling like a child in a very good-looking man's body. It's funny thing about certainty. Engineering is somewhere where you need lots of certainty, lots of factual, but actually, when you get right down to it, there's a lot of uncertainty and a lot of, because I work as a consultant and I have to sell my expertise. Oftentimes it's about teaching, or sometimes teaching or telling the client about the risk and say, look, here's what will probably happen. Here's what might happen. Here's the worst thing that could happen. And really making them understand that we can punch numbers into a spreadsheet. We can do detailed diagrams. You don't always know everything. And that can be really uncomfortable, especially when you're paying for it by the hour. And it's the same in life. That I love that quote. I think it just sums everything up, because I think I feel like the more I know, the less I'm certain of. And yeah, that whole sense of letting go of this must be absolutely right. I've definitely got the answers now, because every time I've done that through my life, go ahead a couple of years and I think, oh, okay, all of that was wrong. So I think making peace with that, come back, focus. Making peace with that is part of growing up.
So accepting the unexpected, because we can't control everything, right?
Something very much like that, yes.
Right, thank you, Chris. And from Chris on to Christina. And I'm very glad to hear that we can never be too old for talent. Christina?
Yes, here I am. Hey!
Hello. Yes, I'm very glad to hear we can never be too old for talent.
Me too.
Okay, now I've got something to ask you about your experience in Toastmasters.
Yeah.
So you mentioned to me that what really intrigued you was you were going and meeting with people who were entrepreneurs, and you were asking questions sort of about public speaking coaching, and people kept bringing up Toastmasters. So that's what made you curious to come and check it out. Now, do you feel, now that you've experienced Toastmasters, you're here competing today, do you feel that Toastmasters offers so much more beyond what a classic coach could give you on a one-to-one experience?
First of all, it was a bit different than that. I was in groups for solo female travelers that all of a sudden became groups for, oh, travel the world and quit your 9 to 5 and make 6 figures per year if only you pay me to know how. So I thought, oh, there are so many types of coaches, mindset coaches, goddess femininity coaches, but what about public speaking? So every time someone said, "Oh, I'm a public speaking coach," they said, "No, no, no, don't hire her, don't hire him. Go to Toastmasters instead." It was a bit of a pile on. So I got curious because of that, because no one piled on any sort of mindset coaching. And answering to your question, it's very different. I guess if someone has a keynote in 3 weeks, Toastmasters is great, but is more in the long run. It's more a long run thing. So a coach, a one-on-one coach, is going to address someone who has more urgency and who needs to practice more and who needs faster results. And Toastmasters, I feel that is for people who want to be in a community, want to practice long-term, want to be corrected by people who are in the same level as they are. So no one is more experienced than anyone else, or maybe they are, but they are not the authority, the official authority of the coach. So they are completely different things, in my opinion, in my experience.
Well, thank you for sharing your experience with us. I like that analogy of like what the coach gives and what the Toastmasters can give to the members as well. Thank you very much, Christina. And contestant number 8, Ben, could you come and join me, please?
Hello.
Hello. Yeah, there you go. I can see you now up on here with me. Now, Ben, I've got a question for you. You seem to have a variety of hobbies and interests that must keep you quite busy. And what I was wondering is, what is the one that you can't let go of? So you've got extremely active ones to meditation. What is the one that really is the most important in your routine?
Yes.
What are you pointing at sitting on the floor?
This is, yeah, exactly. This is the one that keeps pulling me back. I think because it's such a kind of an eminently transferable skill set. This is the winner for me, and the reason being, the analogy I've used before is like, let's say you're a chess champion, right? You've got a great deal of expertise in that specific domain. Well, it's confined to that specific domain. You know, you're never gonna regret developing your communication skills, because if you're ever doing an interview or a podcast or anything like that, you're gonna touch wood, gonna come across reasonably well. And so I think it's the transferability that kind of sets the speaking stuff apart from all the kind of weird and wonderful grab bag of other stuff. So
this one, Toastmasters, is the one.
Public speaking in a general sense, I think it's important not to confine ourselves to like the Toastmasters box. You get speeches which are like Toastmasters good, but you show it to a regular audience and they just think, what did I just hear? I mean, so I think it's studying like in a multidisciplinary way, taking ideas of like beauty from film and music and dance and other spheres. So it's not just Toastmasters. Toastmasters is great. I met my girlfriend through Toastmasters, got my job through this organization, so I owe it a lot. But I think thinking outside the box has to be the caveat to all that stuff as well.
Okay, so all the public speaking that happens outside the meetings, basically, for you is
I think off the beaten path is where the magic happens.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we've heard from each of our contestants,